Hi, everyone. This is Austin, your friendly social media manager. Welcome back to our quarterly Talk to a Recruiter Google Hangout. Again, my name's Austin, and for those of you who don't know, I'm the personal face behind all of IJM's social media platforms. So if you follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook or Google Plus or Instagram, I'm the guy behind all those posts and all those comments. So thanks again so much for following us on all of those platforms. And we try to do this every single quarter where we give you guys a chance to meet one of our recruiters and ask her any question that you would like. And the most recent Hangouts that we've done, we try to pick a topic to dig a lot deeper into. And we're really excited about this Google Hangout because it's titled IJM Secret Weapon, Executive Assistants and Admin Staff. And you guys might recognize, if this is your second or third Google Hangout with us, Andrea McClurg. Andrea is one of our top recruiters, and Andrea and I we grew up together. We went to boarding school in Germany together and then college in Michigan, and I joined staff 7 years ago, and 3 years ago I helped bring Andrea to staff, and she's been one of our recruiters ever since. So if you applied for a job or even been interviewed for a job, Andrea has probably seen your application. She's great. And we also have two amazing guests on this Google Hangout. The first is Melanie. Melanie has worked at IJM for many years, and she's our executive assistant to our vice president of government relations and advocacy named Holly Burkholter. Holly's very famous at IJM. If you guys have been to any of our advocacy summits or follow our blog, you are very familiar with Holly. But Melanie has many different talents. Before she came to IJM, she did a program called the World Race, where she went all around the world to many different countries and has fascinating stories from that experience. But here at IJM, one of the things that she's most well known for is she created the whole system around what we call our 100 postcard challenge, where we ask people to collect 100 postcards that simply asks people, your elected officials, to take action around a certain piece of legislation to help end human trafficking and slavery. And she created that whole system to collect all of those postcards within the challenge, but all the postcards that tens of thousands of you have filled out. And it actually has made a difference, even most recently with the passing of the TVPRA. Melanie, was that what it was?
The HTPA was recently voted on in the House, but yeah.
Yes, that one. And it was all because of you guys writing in, and Melanie was one of the women behind that. And then we also have Stacy, who has worked at IJM for several years as well, who's originally from the South, the United States of America. And she is our executive assistant to the senior vice president of justice system transformation named Sharon Cohn Wu. And Stacy is quite famous within IJM. She is one of our best executive assistants because she is always on it. She never forgets a detail. And she's amazing at just training other people, and her whole goal within her work is just to make tasks a lot easier to perform for her colleagues. And she really is the person behind the scenes, but even very much in the forefront, running that whole division. So she is a superstar. So we're really excited to have Melanie and Stacy here with us today, and I'm going to give it over to Andrea to dive into the format of this Talk to the Recruiter.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us. We are so excited for this episode or this experience with you all. Like Austin said, we've been doing this for a couple of quarters now and just love the opportunity to be able to interact with many of our constituents who are interested in learning more about jobs. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to spend about the first half of this time getting a chance to get to know Austin, Melanie, and Stacy a little bit more. They have some incredible experience, just a wealth of knowledge about IJM and their roles that I think would just be hugely valuable to anyone who's looking to grow professionally, but also for people who are looking into careers at IJM specifically. So we're going to hear from them for the first half. I'm just going to pelt them with questions like I do on a daily basis when I'm interviewing people. And then for the second half, we're going to open it up to you all, and we're going to get some open Q&A that Austin will be able to see the questions that you guys are putting there. If you see a question that you are also interested in, someone else has typed it in, just +1 it so you can like it, and those popular questions will raise to the top. So feel free to start doing that as early on as you'd like, even though we'll just get to those at the end, so we can get a chance chance to see the questions that you're most interested in.
Thanks, Andrea. And just a quick reminder on that. In your right-hand corner of your screen, you should see the question and answer panel. And like Andrea just explained, if you have a question at any point during this Hangout, go ahead and type in your question. And as the questions start to flow, if you see a question that you also have, make sure you +1 it. And you can start doing that right now. And at the end, we'll take your most popular questions. Thanks, Andrea.
Awesome. So the topic for today, like Austin said, we've been able to pick different topics that we've heard from our constituents are interested in. One of them is just the roles that people often see coming up on our website are for coordinators, admins, executive assistants. Now, those aren't the type of positions that get featured in our news articles, or those aren't the staff that are going off to churches to speak. So there can be a lot of mystery about what is it that they do and what does it actually mean to be in those roles. So that's why we wanted to title this the IJM Secret Weapon, because these are the staff that are the secret partner to our leadership. They're the ones working behind the scenes to really make IJM's goals happen with excellence, to make it successful, and they really make our leadership and our organization look good. So I'm really excited for this opportunity to take staff that when you're coming into the organization, you may see them, you'll see them in pictures, they're probably on the sideline, they're maybe right behind a face that you're more familiar with, but now that you know the faces of these two awesome ladies, I think you're going to see just the impact, how their fingerprints are really on every rescue that we have, every victim that we're able to touch. Their handiwork is there. It's there in the excellence and us being able to do that work, to do it well, and just be able to do it on time. And that's a value in IJM's professionalism that we really, really value. So I'm so excited for this opportunity for these skilled administrators who represent many of our other administrators to come and share. So just for some other background, Stacy and Melanie, as you see in their titles and as Austin said, they're both executive assistants, but these aren't the only admin roles that we have. We have regional assistants, we have coordinators, we have constituent relations representatives, so there's just a whole wide range of roles if you have administrative giftings where you can bring those. So we're excited to give you this little window of time into their background and what their day-to-day looks like. So without me rambling on, we can get to the more exciting part of this, which is hearing from Melanie and Stacy. So guys, just to give people a picture of that connection between what you do on a day-to-day basis and why it matters so much, I'd love to just start off by having you guys share what's been your most rewarding experience while at IJM, where you've really seen your role make a huge impact and where you've had one of those like pinch me, oh my gosh, is this really my life moments. So Melanie, why don't we start off with you, and I think there's an example of that from your recent history that I'd love to share, and Austin's going to pull up a few pictures, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea, and thank you, Austin. I'm so glad to be here with everyone today talking about my experience at IJM. During the first few months of my time serving with Holly Burkhalter, she was invited to testify before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And so part of my role was making sure that she had all the information that she needed in order to testify accurately, completely, in a compelling manner. And so one of the joys was getting to go with her that day. Actually, both Stacy and I were there. So I don't know if we have some pictures to show you, but there's some fun ones of Holly testifying with, she actually was on a panel with Jada Pinkett Smith, so of course Will Smith was there too. You can see me sitting behind Holly, and it was just really a remarkable day to see my boss shine and to explain to these people of power how they can influence on behalf of the poor around the world.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Melanie. I love it. That was a huge day for us. There was a whole big group of us who I know we held a conference room so we can see the live streaming of that hearing and just cheered every time we saw that public representation of what we knew was hours and hours and weeks of behind the scenes work. So thanks so much for giving us that insight of what people know about IJM from the many thousands of advocates that we have at all the different states across the U.S. And what it takes to make that happen and why it makes such a big difference. So Stacy, who's our executive assistant to Sharon, who is our senior vice president of justice system transformation. Stacy, you've also had a really cool experience as part of your role that I'd love for you to share just one rewarding example of being in your position and what that's meant.
Sure, absolutely, Andrea. Well, I'd just start by saying that I absolutely love my job. I love the daily operations. I love every piece of it. But one really unusual and exciting thing that I got to do last fall, my boss, Sharon, was going on a trip with 6 other IJM leaders. So some of our very strongest leaders were all going on a trip to visit 4 of our offices in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines and in Cambodia. And so because it was a very complicated trip that had a lot of internal strategy meetings, but also a lot of external meetings with government officials to get our work done, they invited me along to manage all of the logistics on the ground. So it was a collaborative effort with administrative colleagues here back at HQ, of course, but on the ground I was there running all the logistics. And because I was able to be there handling all of the details for these meetings to happen, and in the weeks prior to it, putting together the briefings with our team of phenomenal admins here, all of that did result clearly in the success of our leaders being able to have smooth and powerful and impacting meetings. I think a couple of the slides that are being shown right now are some pictures of a particularly important ceremony where we were signing an agreement with the Cambodian government, the Ministry of the Interior, signing a memorandum of understanding showing that we would be able to partner together in this work. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Stacy. And I like what you said about that kind of liking that day-to-day, because trips to Cambodia aren't our everyday. Testifying in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, that's not, Melanie, that's not your everyday either.
No.
But it's just a great example of where diligence and faithfulness over time, you do have these moments that are just really exciting and where you can see the payoff of all of that hard work. So guys, yeah, Austin, is there something you wanted to add?
Yeah, just to jump in. So some of you might not know how to turn on the Q&A button on your screen. So if you're having trouble locating that, if you are watching this right now, just hover over the right hand corner, top corner of the screen, and a little square button should pop up that says Q&A. Go ahead and click on that, and that should open the box where you can easily type in your questions for Andrea and the panel today. So again, it's in the upper top right hand corner, and it should say Q&A. Thank you so much. Back to you, Andrea.
Awesome. Yeah, well, and if we need to give a minute for you guys to plug those in, we have some time of where hopefully we're going to even jump into some questions that hopefully you're already thinking, and so we can, Austin, Stacy, Melanie, and I will just be having some conversation and some casual hanging out that you can just be hearing us as we engage with this. If your question doesn't get answered, we'll be jumping into that open Q&A for about the last 20 minutes of this time, so you've got some time to figure it out. So guys, I'm so excited to learn about just administration. This is not my gifting. This is not an area that I'm good in. So I'm just so impressed by people who have this gifting, and just wondered, I think my sense is, and from what I've learned from the many excellent administrators at IJM, is there are some unique aspects to being an administrator at IJM compared to, say, other places or other organizations that you've worked. Can you just share a little bit about what you think people could expect by coming to IJM as in an admin role? Jump in, anyone.
Sure. I would say for me, my experience has been just the level of responsibility with which we're trusted. It's absolutely incredible. We are essentially being project managers a huge amount of the time. So managing not only my boss's projects and everything that goes with that, but large projects are handed to me to coordinate for the entire division. I'm asked to coordinate and implement trainings for our new hires. It's just a really, really high level of responsibility.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I was thinking about in preparing for this hangout, that a lot of people think of, oh, you know, I'll do the administrative stuff. We'll let the leadership focus on more important things. They've got more important things to happen. But just this idea that you're actually, yes, you are doing, I mean, scheduling at this like superhuman speed that blows my mind, answering hundreds and thousands of emails. So there's just like tons of administrative stuff that's happening, and you do it with such grace and poise and kindness that is such a testimony to, I think, just IJM's values being put under strain, what actually comes out. But that you're actually working on some really significant things, like you just said, Stacy, in complicated projects. You're not just doing the busy work over off on the side. I'm interested to hear if from either one of you, what's maybe taken people by surprise when they find out a little bit of like what you do, and they're just kind of surprised. They're like, oh, that's part of your role. What some of those misconceptions are that you've confronted people's minds.
Yeah, I can step out on this one. I think Stacy kind of highlighted a part of it, in that it is a normal executive assistant role, in that we're scheduling and we're handling phone calls and messages and doing some of those tasks that are recognizable through a lot of admin positions. But I think that at IJM we're given an opportunity to lead in projects that match our interests or our skills or the needs of our team. And there's room to create growth in those things. So Austin highlighted the 100 postcard challenge, which I did not create. I think all credit goes to my colleague Erica Boonstra. But I did step into it and help make it more efficient. And so a huge percentage of my job is actually coordinating with advocates around the country so that their voice and the voice of their friends and family are heard on Capitol Hill in a display of political will. And it's a really rewarding experience.
Yeah. Definitely. Anything else that you guys think, misconceptions, before I move on? Because I know this seems like a point that there can be a lot of like passion behind this, of like, that's not what I do, like I do this. There's just, I mean, the task list that you guys have is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the only things I can think of to add to what Melanie has already said is that the fact that I get to use all my strengths is huge. People are surprised by that. In an administrative role, they would think that you're over here on the side just doing, mundane items. But I'm actually encouraged to leverage all of my strengths of how can we use your strengths, what are they, and how can we use them for the organization to move this division forward, to move my boss's work forward, to move the whole organization forward. So for me, I'm a big junkie on efficiency and process improvement, and that's where I've been able to live and be able to just really get traction and jump into that.
And I will also add, so part of my story at IJM, I've been here for 7 years, started out as an intern, and then my first position for 3 years was an entry-level position, an admin assistant for our education department. And one of the advantages that I see now that I am more in a siloed role where I manage social media, and it's easier for me just to know what's going on in the social media world and realm, but to lose that connection with other parts of the organization. Where when I was an admin, I had a whole vision of what my department was working on, from speaking at churches to schools to the IJM Institute, and I had my hand in each one of those, which allowed me to use my skills and strengths on a variety of very interesting projects across the whole department, which I love my role now, but I just don't get as many opportunities to have my hand in just a diverse set of projects, and I do miss that. So that's one of the advantages, I think, of being an admin. And I wasn't an EA. EA is a glorified admin, and they're at a very high level, so I would never reach the level of Melanie and Stacy at all, but I love that part of my job then.
Can I jump in with another misconception, Andrea?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about like in culture, admin assistants and EA roles, the first thing that came to mind was Deborah Wears Prada, where she's running around doing like trying to accomplish these ridiculous tasks, and her boss is never pleased with her. And my experience at IJM is that it's the complete opposite. With my boss and I have a really great relationship. We're partners together. I've never felt anything but the most respect from her, and I think that's a common misconception, is that it's a lesser role, and really it hasn't been that way at all.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. And just kind of the breaking that idea of, it's memorizing, how many pumps of vanilla syrup do they want in their cappuccino, and really it's a totally different type of dynamic. And I should say Melanie has been in her role with IJM for 5 years rather, but she's actually making an exciting transition in the next couple of weeks. And Melanie, why don't you tell people where you'll be going, what you'll be doing in just a couple of weeks?
Well, sure, yeah. I am being promoted to the role of mommy. I'm leaving IJM in just 4 weeks to be a stay-at-home mom.
So we like to be upfront with that, so when you guys see the role on the website, which we have it posted now, you'll know why it's there, and know where Melanie is being led next. So thanks for sharing, and we're so excited that we get this opportunity before you leave to share this wealth of information that you have.
And recruit lots of replacements to come behind me.
Yes, exactly. So, guys, let's do one of my favorite podcasts is the NPR Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. And they do this thing called lightning fill in the blank. So it doesn't need to be lightning. I want to keep a conversation about this. But as I was thinking what I wanted to know from you guys and what is maybe on other people's minds, a lot of it was just like fill in the blank. Like, paint this picture for me. So here are a few questions that I'd love to get your input on. Fill in the blank. If my team had to describe me in one word, they would say I'm what?
I might say thorough. Crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's so that they don't have to, hopefully.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Someone once introduced me and said, "This is Melanie. She's efficient." So I think we could go with efficient.
Yes, love it. The hardest part of my job is?
I think for me it is two things. One is just rigorous prioritization every day because we have so many overwhelming opportunities. That's the season we're in here. So just rigorous prioritization, and then the second one being to just make myself stop and make time to create systems that make things more efficient instead of only dealing with the urgent all the time.
Yeah, definitely. Mel, what about for you?
I mean, I was about to say the same thing. Knowing how to prioritize and what to do next, like what are the best next steps. And then I was thinking tyranny of the urgent, trying to get away from day-to-day to improve systems. So same, actually.
Yeah. So when prioritization is such a big factor in your success, what's been the best advice that either of you have received on how to stay organized? I know that information sharing, there is just such a strong community of business administrators across the organization that are just this wealth of organizational knowledge and efficiency. What's been helpful for either of you and how to stay up ahead of all of those competing priorities?
I mean, again, for me, it just goes back to putting really good systems in place where that you are really organizing all of your information and you're making it accessible to everyone in your team, if not on the whole organization. I think, too, something that I probably pulled from the Michael Hyatt productivity blog that a lot of us pass around, lots of great tips there. That was Michael Hyatt. There's something that talks about like making sure that every task that you have to do, as soon as you're aware of it, put it in some kind of list so that you don't lose it. I used to swear by Post-it notes and notebooks and notepads. I don't do that anymore. Get it into an online list where it's not lost and it's organized.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, and I would say, I can't remember the source, it might be Michael Hyatt, I can't remember, but doing the big rocks first. So putting in time for the harder, more thought intense projects when I'm freshest in the day. So doing those things first and then filling in later.
Right. Man, I'm like thinking through my morning. Have I done this? I love it. I should have started off with this in the morning. So to people who are on this Hangout, specifically interested in kind of professional development and the career advice that could come through your experience, why don't we turn it back to you guys, and would be interested to hear what advice you would give the pre-IJM version of yourself. Cumulatively, you've been here for 10 years. So looking back, yeah, what advice do you think you pass on?
Yeah, I didn't have experience in as large of an organization as IJM, so I would have absolutely told my pre-IJM self to go get as much experience as possible in fast-paced professional environments. That would have been very valuable for me, and it makes the learning curve not so steep if you're able to get as much professional experience as you can before you start here.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. That's something that we often in the recruiting team are encouraging people to do. And I realize from the candidate experience, it can be frustrating when you're like, I want to get experience, and they're telling me to get experience, I need experience. But it is that kind of catch-22, but it is something that you can do this creatively. Like if you go to a large church, how can you be getting involved in church ministries or other nonprofits that are going on in your community? If you aren't able to get that fast-paced experience through your job, be looking at ways to volunteer or get engaged to kind of get that exposure for yourself. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Anything else? What do you guys think? Well, if not, we can.
I mean, I was going to say one other thing I might add is just I think we forget how valuable the resources are of the administrators, the administrative assistants all around us in our current organizations. So if you can just learn as much as you can and share as much knowledge as you can with those around you, you can learn from everyone. Everything that I've learned about being a successful administrative assistant, I've learned from other colleagues here. I have not had one original thought. I've stolen it all, I'm sure. So our colleagues here are amazing. Every single admin here is brilliant. And sometimes I will learn something from them by just asking a few questions. Well, how do you do this? How do you organize this? And I will say, fascinating. I wish I'd asked you 6 months ago. So I would just really encourage you to tap into the people around you and learn from them and share knowledge.
Right. And I'll also add, one of my favorite IJM stories is of one of our colleagues who's actually our field office director in our Cambodia office. She is an amazing individual, but she was our very first ever aftercare fellow and went to the field with us and then became our director of aftercare in IJM Cambodia and then returned to the U.S. with her husband, and she worked here at headquarters for about 3 years, and she was one of our directors of church mobilization and by far one of the best directors we've ever had because she had this great way of creating vision for people and she knew strategy and knew how to get people to rally behind that. But what set her apart that made her different was that she was so detail-oriented. She was on it. If she promised she would deliver on a project, she would. And she would respond to your emails, just a very detail-oriented person. And that's what made her great at what she did. And she always says that that was because of, before IJM, she was an executive assistant at a company in downtown DC. And that's where she learned how to just raise the bar at a higher level and become detail-oriented, know how to project manage, and she always attributes that to her success here at IJM, and now she's one of our leaders in the field, leading all of our work in Cambodia. So super inspiring story.
Yeah, well, and that's a great point, Austin, about And I'd be interested, Stacey and Melanie, to hear about a little bit about your career paths as well, or just to have you share that. I think that would be valuable for people because, like Austin mentioned, there's just such value in starting off in these roles that are skill shaping and formative roles where you are learning some of those foundational skills of organization, prioritization, project management, just email etiquette that can really help you no matter where you go in your career. Some people know that you're going into those roles looking at them as a stepping stone. This is a formative time for me. Others may look at those roles as I want to continue to grow and develop in administrative roles, but I'm going to stay and seek roles in this as my profession. I think Stacey's a great example of where you've moved up from where you started off at IJM and are now in a role working with our senior vice president. So I'm just interested to hear from both of you, Melanie and Stacey, what advice you would give to people looking at administrative roles about what you think they could gain from starting off in an administrative role, whether they plan on staying in that long term or not, just where you think the value is.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share. I think thinking back to my career path getting here, even back in high school, my part-time job was working at a medical billing office doing administrative work, and from then just built up. So thinking about creative ways to get experience before entering the workforce between high school jobs, or even I interned at the State House, and then I came here to DC and interned at the White House, and my assignment coordinator was actually an executive assistant. And really most of what I learned was during that time of watching her. And then I became a special assistant in a government agency, and then came to IJM actually as receptionist, and eventually wanted to see my passion for government marry my administrative skills. And so when the EA position to Holly came open, it was perfect that I had spent all of these years building up skills in administrative tasks, but also developing knowledge and a passion for government, so that they could come together in a way that has been really rewarding for me. So I think there's ways to apply administrative skills in different contexts in a way that can be rewarding in different seasons.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, Stacey, and you've had a chance to be kind of like a coach and an assignment coordinator, I think, for a lot of the interns that come through, giving that advice to people who are maybe just starting off in their career, having the opportunity to explore if a role is right for me. What do you think people can gain through stepping into an administrative role, particularly at IJM?
Yeah, I mean, just echoing what's been said about the volume here is so high, and the level of the type of responsibilities that you're given is also so high. So you are being able to have a broad range of experiences, and you're being able to manage a large number of projects, and that is going to set you up well for any job that you end up in the future. I tell people all the time that every day here just flies by. At the end of the day, I feel like I've just blinked when I came in. The work is so energizing here in the administrative roles. I think especially there's just so much joy in all of the projects that we're given. For me, my path here, just in case it's helpful to other people out there wondering about the administrative path, I actually several years ago went to graduate school, and while I was there, one of the things that I actually really enjoyed the most was providing administrative support as part of my graduate assistantship to the professors and the head of our department. But there in graduate school was another professional environment where I was able to learn professionalism and analytical thinking and research and writing, really hone those editing skills that have come into play now in my job. I think collaborative work, working across different teams there, I built a foundation there. And then when I moved to DC, and started to realize that what I really wanted to do was work in an organization that really helped the poor in some way. I started trying to figure out how could I marry that passion, but I had this graduate school degree in something that didn't quite line up. So just like Melanie, what I did was I thought, well, okay, I found the organization I'd like to work for, IJM. I have administrative skills, and so I came in as the office coordinator and receptionist, just like Melanie did, and then within several months, a position came open for an executive assistant, and I was able to move into that, and it's just been so rewarding these past 5 years to just grow and grow. And that's another thing here at IJM. They grow and stretch their administrative team constantly, daily, and I just have been so thankful for that.
Yeah, and I always think it's really unique that people can sometimes you see the organization that you're passionate about. IJM, we just draw people who are driven by a bigger mission, a bigger picture. That's why people come. But it's also so important to find that role that you're a good fit for as well. And I think what's really wonderful about your stories, and just I want to highlight to people, is you also saw that passion that you had, but marrying it with skills that you had developed, maybe in a different context, but saw how you could translate them to this environment. So I think that's really awesome. And then we're able to look at it kind of the long term. I mean, have some of the patience that's necessary to come into a role that the day-to-day would be meaningful for you, but that you also then saw the opportunity to step into a role that longer term was really that match, like you said, Melanie, with your passion for government, your experience working at the White House, and your understanding of government to now be supporting the government relations and advocacy team. So I think that's really awesome. So admins come in from a wide range of backgrounds and experiences, but there's some core traits that I think, regardless of who they are and what role it is, there can just be some common denominators. And interested to hear from you guys, if you were, say, for instance, hiring your backfill, Melanie, or Stacy, all the many interview teams that you've had a chance to be on, can you give people who are listening just a sense of what some non-negotiables are for you and what it takes to be successful in an administrative role here at IJM?
Sure, definitely. When we are looking for good qualified candidates in our interviews here, we are looking for people who are solutions oriented, who are problem solvers, who can give us specific examples where no matter where they are now, whatever level of work that they're doing now, they're able to take something from here and take it all the way to here, and tell us what is the impact that you've made in the company that you're in right now. So being solutions oriented and really proactive, getting out in front of things, being able to think ahead.
Yeah. And I think we might be having a little bit of an issue with Mel. I think we're bringing her back on, but don't be concerned, she didn't run away because the question was too hard. At least I hope not. The solutions-oriented aspect, that's something that if you're going to be interviewing, that we really want to be able to hear some tangible examples of that. Not just, I like to solve problems. Be thinking, what have you done? Whether it's in a clerical function, or just how you were able to step up in your missions trip and, organize everyone's itineraries into a meaningful spreadsheet. Whatever it is, just give some tangible examples. It's so helpful for us as part of the interview process to hear those concrete stories. But yeah, what else? Any other aspects of what makes a strong administrator that you think would be important to highlight, Austin?
Yeah, and that's actually, I'm seeing all the questions pour in, and that's one of the most popular questions right now, are what professional skills that we're looking for in hiring administrative positions. And yeah, I think you just affirm what everyone has been saying, but I do think you need to be detail-oriented for sure, and not just detail-oriented in the weeds, but you need to have a clear vision of where you're taking the organization and your department and your boss as well, which is something that was a little bit harder for me to learn when I was first an admin, when I first started IJM. So a combination of being detail-oriented, but also knowing how to have that larger vision that you're working toward. And I think Stacy, for example, does that really well in her job.
Yeah. Yeah.
As does Melanie, who we've lost. So we're going to try to get her back on. But in the meantime, the three of us can chat.
Well, yeah, and so Austin, you mentioned the questions that are coming in and want to give some time to that. So is anything coming to the surface, Austin, is some top questions that people are curious to hear, and Stacy and I can try to engage with those until we get Melanie back on?
Yeah, definitely. So the first question that we have that's quite popular is wondering about life-work balance. So I'm working for a high-impact nonprofit. How do you feel you find work-life balance in your work? Stacey, if you want to start that. Welcome back, Melanie.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's all right. We were just asking one of the first questions from the viewers that are watching this, and the question is about life-work balance, working for a very high-impact, fast-paced nonprofit. How do you feel you find work-life balance?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it is definitely something that you're constantly keeping your eye on and monitoring, and what works for you one year or one season might not work the next year. But I think it's so important. It starts with perspective, right, of the work is always going to keep pouring in. And so we joke a lot around here, our EA team, and say that we could all sit here at our desk and work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we would still be behind. We would still have a really long task list. So I think once you realize that, we are human beings with a finite capacity. Time is a very finite resource. So what are the most important things that we can get done today? And start each day with your top 3 priorities. Put those on a piece of paper in front of you. Try your best to get those done while managing everything else that's coming in, and making really good disciplined decisions about what has to be done today and what can wait until tomorrow or next week. And then getting those things just scheduled as appointments with yourself on your calendar has been super helpful for me, and then I don't have to think about it again.
Yeah, that's prioritization. That's kind of coming up as a theme here. I'd be interested to get your take, and I want to make sure we can get to other questions too. But just for my plug, one thing that I hear a lot is just, the workload is so heavy, but what's so incredible about this environment at IJM is our spiritual formation. We are united in our faith. We are united in this mission, and what you'll find here is, yes, we work hard. There's overwhelming opportunity, but you'll also probably, many of you may be surprised to hear that we just all stop at 11 o'clock, from 11 to 11:30, and just stop and pray. And what a good centering exercise to remember that, yes, we need to do this work, but the success of this does not rest solely on us and getting that next thing checked off. So just to plug that in, and I think that's something that keeps me going, and I really love how that's tangibly demonstrated through our structure here.
Totally. So I'm seeing another question that just came in, and I think both of you can speak to this. The question is, do any of the admins get to have interactions with clients and travel internationally?
Yeah, Melanie and I have both traveled internationally. I think I shared earlier about traveling to Southeast Asia last year to 4 of our offices with my supervisor. It was a great privilege, and we did get to have several meetings with survivors, with clients of ours, and hear their stories. They were so deeply meaningful. So it's definitely possible. It mainly just depends on your role, and it just depends on what the timing might be for those kinds of opportunities. And then I'll let Melanie share about her trips to the field.
Yeah, like Stacy, I helped coordinate a trip that my boss took to India last year, and again, I don't know that every admin position gets to go, but many do end up in coordinator roles visiting our different field offices.
Great. So the next question is for all 3 of you, actually. What are the different types of admin roles within IJM?
Yeah, and I can jump in with that. And like I said at the beginning, so you're getting some insight into the executive assistant positions through Melanie and Stacy's experience. And while we do have a really large EA population, each vice president has an executive assistant. So vice president, senior vice president, or executive vice president. If you go, small little plug, go on our website, see the About Us, go look at our leadership. We have little bios for each one of them. So in addition to Holly Burkhalter and Sharon Conwu, you can see all the other leaders. Get a look at their bio. It is so impressive. I'm still impressed when I look at their bios. And the EAs get to partner with leaders of that caliber in what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. But there's also roles that are a little bit more entry level, coming in as a regional assistant. Many of our, if not all of our regional assistants have started off after serving with us for a year in the field as an intern in one of our field offices, then coming back to headquarters and working with one of our regional directors, our regional vice presidents, who oversee IJM's casework in an entire region. And so those roles are a little bit more project-based. They're doing some of the day-to-day support that we have in EA roles, but it's also liaising between the field offices, liaising between our different directors. They're kind of the hub and the spoke of all that's going on in those different regions. A very different role that's executive or is administrative that we have right now is a temporary constituent relations representative. That's for someone who maybe you're looking to go into marketing or sales. That's a role that where you are engaging with our constituents or donors, working to process gifts and donations, people who are making just such meaningful gifts to IJM through their resources. You're processing those gifts, so just a blend of detail orientation that's needed for that role, but in a very different setting. So there's more. Go on the website. There's a category for administrative. You can set up a filter actually to save and get an alert anytime an administrative role opens up.
Great. Thanks, Andrea. Next question is, what professional skills are you looking for when hiring for admin positions? And I know that we all kind of have spoken to this, but if you could narrow it down to 3 professional skills that we look for in admin staff, what would each of you say those 3 things would be?
Sure. Well, I mean, I will say that it does vary from position to position. So IJM, we are still a small enough organization where I think people wear a lot of hats, and you can see that an executive assistant role in one department can be nuanced from an executive assistant in another department. So I would just encourage people to read job descriptions. We put a lot of time and effort into those and really want to tell you what we want accomplished through this role, and so reading through the required skills and experience as well as the critical qualities will give you the full picture. But you asked me for 3 things, so let's see. I would say strong experience in a fast-paced professional environment is important. Experience providing direct support to a leader, whether that is a manager of a program, your pastor, a corporate leader, providing that direct support for executive assistant roles is really important. And I think just to get on more on the critical quality side of things, that heart of service combined with your own personal faith and is so important to just IJM's culture and the kind of motivation that we're looking for people to have in doing this work out of just a place of humility and desire to further the mission of IJM.
Great, thanks, Andrea. Melanie, you're up next.
Wow. I would think something that's really important is someone who can demonstrate that they have a mind for improving systems. And so as we've talked about the flow and the high pace of tasks coming in, someone who can, through examples of past experience, show that they have a mind to improve systems is really important. I would say also someone, this isn't a task, but it's anyway, someone who is approachable or friendly or doesn't take themselves too seriously, because these are service roles and we get to serve our leaders and our colleagues joyfully, and if we're not a good fit or if we have a bad attitude about that, it's no longer joyful and it's less effective. So I would say those are 2 super important qualities that I would be looking for. I think the third would be someone who has experience in the basic things like Outlook and Word and Excel and these things. I'm surprised sometimes by people coming in and not having experience with these basic functions. So whatever you can do to get some experience in that is good.
Yeah, so some of those hard skills that people can, it's great if you're maybe hearing some of these and I haven't gotten a lot of PowerPoint or Excel is something I'm weak in. Kind of brushing up on those things could be a good thing to do.
I will third that. And I know if you just do a simple Google search, there's a lot of YouTube videos that will actually train you for free on how to be more advanced in Excel especially, and also Word. And being at IJM for 7 years, that's definitely come in handy, those skills. Stacy, how about you? 3 skills.
Oh, it's so hard to narrow it down to 3. I mean, the biggest one I'm looking for when I'm interviewing executive assistants is going to be giving us concrete examples of problem solving and being solutions oriented that I said earlier. I think I also said being really proactive, being able to give us examples of how you have really been able to see long term what the impact is going to be if you do or don't do certain things very early on at the beginning. So problem solving and proactive, and then I guess I would say maybe being able to balance putting a lot of structure in for your team, but also being able to be flexible. And that's a harder one to learn. It was for me because I'm an ISTJ and I want everything to be structured and planned, but you've really got to serve your team well and serve your supervisor well by being able to really be joyfully flexible. And again, like Melanie said, of having that really good attitude in all things, that goes so far, because we are here to make the job easier for our bosses and also for our whole teams and departments that we serve. So being able to do that, come in every morning with a great attitude, a flexible attitude.
Great. Melanie, I'm seeing some nodding. Sounds like you resonate with that?
Yeah, I was just laughing. Stacey and I were talking earlier about how we're a little bit different in that. For her, she just said something about how learning to be flexible was harder for her because of her ISTJ, and for me it was the opposite. My lead strength was adaptability, and so it was harder for me to come in and put structures in place, whereas flying by the seat of my pants was always much easier. So I think we had different struggles in that, but both are super important, and I think finding the balance between those two is really key.
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
So just a reminder to everyone, if you aren't seeing the question and answer tab, if you just hover your browser over in the top right-hand corner, you should see a little box that says Q&A. Go ahead and click on that, and you can ask us any questions that you'd like. And again, if you do see that tab already open and you're seeing people's questions pour in, feel free to +1 the questions that you also have. And thumbs down the questions you don't want us to answer. Just kidding. There's no thumbs down functionality. But the next question is talking about our internships and fellowships. And this person is wondering, how often do we hire fellows and interns to fill admin positions? And I can start out with that because that's part of my story. I was an intern right after I graduated from college, had very little to none, no professional work experience. But being an intern at IJM in a fast-paced environment forced me to start to learn what it was like to work in a fast-paced environment, made me be very detail-oriented because our interns and fellows actually work on real projects and work very closely with the current admin staff in each of their division working on projects, and it just forces you to be very detail oriented. So right after my internship, I became the admin assistant to our education department because of the skills that I actually learned in my internship at IJM, and I know a lot of other staff members have similar stories as well. Andrea, do you have anything to add, or Stacy and Melanie?
Yeah, well, I will just say that 25% of our headquarters staff are former interns and fellows with us. So while not all of our interns go on to work with IJM, there is a good portion of our staff that has gained such valuable experience through our incredible intern and fellow program, and then have stayed on as staff. So it is a great way to gain experience with IJM and get a better sense of what do you want to do if it's with IJM or with another organization.
Great. The next question is for you, Stacy. The question is, Stacy, the trip to Cambodia seemed like a very comprehensive part of your job. What jobs, experiences have you in your background that equipped you to pull that off?
Well, I mean, again, like Melanie, I mean, I worked in a variety of professional office settings in the past, beginning in high school and all through college and graduate school. I could give you a list of 5 or 6, but medical offices, attorneys' offices, trying to think, just at the graduate school level itself. I've actually worked at churches on staff as well, but anytime that you can get that kind of really strong experience where there is a level of excellence to grow in, I mean, that was extremely helpful, because everything we did on that trip to Cambodia was done at a very high level of excellence, and we are very very strong here, our entire administrative team, in pulling together excellent briefings, excellent line-by-line itineraries. We've taken care of every possible anticipated problem that could come up, and we have a plan B to go, and then maybe a plan C and a plan D if plan A or plan B don't work. So it's just, I think, just making sure that you're getting those varieties of experiences where excellence is encouraged and triumphed.
The vulnerable of the world, I just have to say, the vulnerable of the world are so lucky to have Stacy Mooney supporting our Senior Vice President of Justice Transformation. That is, I love that. Thanks, Stacy, for saying that. The plan A, you don't just have an excellent plan A, you've got the plan B, C. Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. So I think we have time for just one more question, and this question is very specific, so it won't take too long. But this is from Alona. She asked, does IJM have or foresee having admin positions in the U.S. other than Washington, D.C., which was just voted by Forbes magazine the coolest city in America? So it's not a bad thing that many of our positions are in D.C. But she's wondering if we would ever consider telecommuting for any of our admin positions across the U.S.
Unfortunately, I'd say it's pretty rare if that could happen, just because, as you're probably getting a sense, there's just so much partnership between the team, an entire department, and an admin. They're really kind of holding together the fabric of a lot of moving parts and pieces. So being here in person can be pretty critical. While it's unlikely, if there are positions that are based outside of the U.S., you can also we'll put the location for each one of our positions, or if there's an option for telecommuting, we'll put that it's a regional position, though, like I said, it's probably not as likely for these roles.
Great. Thanks, Andrea. So it looks like we are out of time. So I just wanted to thank Andrea and Melanie and Stacy for giving up an hour so we could host this Google Hangout. And thank you to all of you who were tuning in. And I want to give a special shout out to Amy, who was tweeting throughout this whole Google Hangout. We love when people talk about us on Twitter. At least I love it because it makes me feel nice. So thank you, Amy, for just tweeting some great sound bites from this Google Hangout. And if you go back into the event of this Google Hangout, I'm going to be posting 2 links that I would love for each of you to click on. The first link is a survey to this Google Hangout. We'd love to get feedback from you, especially since we want to do these every single quarter. We'd love to know what other topics you would love for us to cover on each of those Hangouts. And the second link is going to be to all of our open positions. We have a lot of different positions that are open right now. Again, Melanie is going to be leaving us to be a mother in 4 weeks. And that's just one of many positions that are currently on our website. So
and a plug for Executive Assistant to our Senior Vice President of Justice Operations. I believe that is the correct title. Over all of our field offices is currently live on the website. So that is a real life example opening of a lot of what you're hearing today. So go on the website, check it out, share it with your friends, get excited.
Totally. And just to plug that again, that guy is amazing. He started our work in Thailand and the Philippines, and then he came back to DC and now leads all of our field operations throughout the world. So this is the guy you want to work for. So definitely make sure you either apply, or if you don't want to apply, tell all your friends to apply, better qualified. So thank you again so much for giving up an hour to join us. And please do like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, +1 us on Google Plus, and follow us on Instagram. And we'll be posting more information about our next Talk to a Recruiter. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.